And at this point, I nailed it. Well, I didn't nail it, but it's the way he pronounced the word must that gave away his northern heritage completely. But I
Most.
said the rest is that quite fact it must. So it's northern, probably Yorkshire, something like that, but it's definitely there. So hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophile.
Mamma mia.
My name's John, his name's Andy. I want all the world to see you laughing, and you're laughing at me. I can take it all from you again, 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 and deeper and down. More on that later. But first, we have a song to listen to. You don't know what song I'm on about, Andy, but
Nope.
some people out there will, and they'll either be going or going. That's what it's all about. Anyway, yeah, you've got a song for us to listen to, Andy. Please tell us what you have in store.
This is a band called Reverend and the Makers. Are you familiar with that band?
No, but it feels like I should be, or I've heard them mention, but yeah, no.
Okay, interesting. Well, this is a live performance on Later with Jools Holland. And
Oh,
they,
cool.
yeah, it's a good one. And they are performing their song Heavyweight Champion of the World.
Mm.
Yes.
Mixed emotions with that title. There's been a few. One of the human beings I admire the most ever in history, and some right scumbags as well.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good mix. Right
yeah,
on.
well, there you go. There
Okay.
you go. Excellent. All right, I shall go off and give this a spin around the block and see what it does for me.
Excellent. Sounds good, man.
Now that she's older, embassy of romance, makes of mortgages and lecky bills, been comfortable at night, and nobody told her that she'd ever reach the stage where her husband bored her or she lied about her age. And he's compromising, at least he's got a job for life. Get born, get school, get job, get car, pay tax and find a wife. And on that note, the ain't gonna come too soon. If you're not living on the edge, you take them to the truth. Could have been a contender, I could have been a someone. Gotta pick the right race, feeling like no one. Been me in the papers, money in the girl. Could have been the heavyweight champion in the world. Skinny is the dream about being Bruce Lee, with an need for chops on a man at top, and so like.
That was an interesting start. Air raid warning and then straight into it. I had that initially, that sort of late period Talking Heads groove to it. Um, yeah, this feels like from him talking, it sounds like a Brit. Sorry, him singing. Sounds like a Brit, but it sounds quite American influenced. And I can't yet put my finger on it. And it's that second period of sort of dance influenced indie. So you had that first tranche, late 80s, early 90s, led by, it's totally a coincidence, but Happy Mondays, and then other bands. And then you had it again in the noughties, um, uh, led by certain bands, which will come to me in a second. But yeah, it kind of sounds like that. It got that really nice constant guitar going. It sounds good, and then you've got the electronic tomfoolery over the top, which adds a bit of entertainment, definitely. So it's got a nice groove to it. Right, let's see how it goes.
Wait to see you, so he gave up on his black belt and first down. As near as he got to China was a week in campus and I've been contacted. Could have been a someone, caught up in the rat race, feeling like no one. Been in the papers with the money and the girl. Could have been a heavyweight champion of the world. Could have been a contactor. I could have been a someone, caught up in the rat race, feeling like no one. Been in the papers, money and the girl. I could have been a heavyweight champion of the world. It's boring, it might put you to sleep.
That bit there sounded really familiar. Let me just. I can't think what. That sort of keyboard breakdown.
No one been in the papers, money and the girl. I could have been a heavyweight champion of the world. It's boring, it might put you to sleep. Same old routine, repeating week after week. And you work harder. You're told that you must, cause you must earn a living, and you must earn a crust. Sinister minister is there to administer lies and moral guidance in an effort to finish you. Make you give in and make you accept the wheel of which you're a part. Nobody cares how you
Plays his accent. It's fairly sort of flat, isn't it? But certain words, I'm thinking, is he from Manchester? Is he up north? Then it sounds a bit Mockney. Just most of it's fairly no accent, but just certain words. It'll come to me.
feel. Of course, discourse from MPs on high horse makes you so sick while they sell you what is yours. And while you're young, they wanna dampen your fire. So you're old and you're tired and you're just glad to retire to be like everybody else. 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 Be like everybody else.
Like the vocals.
Be like everybody else. Be like everybody else. Be like everybody else. I'm not like everybody else. Everybody else. Be like everybody else. Be like everybody else. I could have been a contender. I could have been a someone. Caught up in the rat race, feeling like no one. Been me in the papers with the money and the girl. Could have been a heavyweight champion of the world. Been a contender. I could have been a someone. Caught up in the rat race, feeling like no one. Been me in the papers with the money and the girl. Could have been a heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah. I was thinking actually during the song, this is all right. Nothing particularly great. And then I really liked the sort of like the last minute or so when the group vocals came in. Be like everybody else. And it got a bit more character to the song and it just seemed to ramp up a bit more. I mean, they were throwing themselves around really enthusiastic, but that really translated in the last minute. There was a second drummer there, wasn't there? But it looked like they didn't trust him that much because he didn't have any cymbals or anything. But the main drummer was really giving it some in the last bit, which I admired his enthusiasm. It was nothing mind blowing, but it was just really, again, sort of took you over the line in terms of being swept away with the song as well. So yeah, I enjoyed that, particularly the last quarter. Yeah, it's a decent song actually. I need to know more about this band, so let's go and talk it up with Andy.
Oh,
Okay.
so you've returned from the thrill in Manila
Yes.
or the stage of
Did
Jules
I?
Holland. Either way.
Yeah. Rumble in the Jungle. God, did you ever watch When We Were Kings? Amazing.
No.
Oh, when they go all into the stuff in Kinshasa, and they're literally very, very quickly what they did beforehand, because obviously it was the first big ever sporting event in an African nation,
Mhm.
and they were worried about crime, so they rounded up the usual suspects, the known criminals, and basically executed them all. Underneath the stage for the boxing ring. So one of the journalists is saying this ring is built on blood.
Yeah.
You know, and there's
Yeah.
all the stuff about the African fetishes and stuff like that, and there's a great book by Norman Mailer called The Fight as well, which is about the fight and how he convinced himself that Ali was going to die. And he says he got drunk one night, Norman Mailer, and he says, "Well, if I can go out and walk along the balcony of my hotel and into the next room, then he will win." So he went out pissed along this ledge and made it. And there's stuff like that. It's such legendary. I could talk about that fight for a long time. Anyway, back to Reverend and the Makers, and being a fellow member of the cloth, I had a special interest in this. Um, I suspect he's much a minister as I am. He probably didn't even go online and get the card like I did. But anyway, so the songs, I have to say, in my notes, it just occurred to me, I didn't even mention the fact they were playing live. It kind of just, because it's so good. There's not even an air of the fact, and they're really on the money. So I should say, first off, because I forgot to put it in my notes, it's a great performance, and it just is spotless, so good. I just even forgot they were playing live, which is mad. This is I'm watching it, but anyway. So it starts with this air raid siren warning. So shit's about to go down, and then we start, and it's to me that initial sort of burst has got that sort of late period Talking Heads groove to it, And I have to say this, if I don't mention it later, that the bass does a great job of carrying the song pretty much all the way through.
Yeah.
Nothing flash or complicated, but he just does a really, really good job. And everything hangs off the bass, really. The rhythm section together actually are really good. More on that. So the Reverend starts singing, and immediately I can tell he's from the right side of the pond. And he has a fairly flat accent, and I realized what's the reaction. I'm perhaps getting a little bit obsessed with where he's from, but every now and then there's a word that makes me think he's northern. It's not Mank, and it's definitely not Scouse, but I could easily be wrong. But anyway, everyone is having fun, particularly the band. The bouncing keyboard player and the grinning drummer. And I do like to see people happy in their work, and it is in fact that if they're having a good time, you're having a good time usually. So we're quickly into that sort of dancey rock genre with accompanying electronica. And that said, electronica has more than just a nod and a wink to Giorgio Moroder. And it's definitely got some of those touches in there. Donna Summer waltzing across the stage would not be out of place for that little bit. We were doing the really, really, it's a nice touch, So this started making me think about, for want of a better phrase, indie dance movements. And then in my mind, I'm thinking and it's total coincidence because, as you know, I grab records at random and shove them up there before I know what you're going to give me, before I even heard the song. But I put Happy Mondays up there. And so I immediately, think of Happy Mondays, who started off that whole sort of indie dance thing in the late 80s. It's in other bands as well, Stone Roses, etc., and on and on. And now I know, which I didn't at the time when it was happening to me, that all of that, particularly Mondays, were heavily influenced by krautrock, Can and the like. I would have said at the time that sound was unmistakably British, that sort of indie dance sound. This song I would place firmly in the noughties. You can kind of see it anyway, but it does sound like it's quite influenced by American sound. that dance. And I was thinking, and again, Talking Heads is probably a good reference that
Yeah.
sort of the sort of origins of it, and then into other bands and loads that you've referenced, and So again, it's interesting the difference, because you don't want a movement to come along 10 or 20 years later that sounds exactly like what came before. You want it to be slightly different, and it's a different angle. So it just made me think. Anyway, song's continuing as my brain's and the chorus kicks in, and this is, bear with me on this. So I had this feeling of the chorus is kind of, it's spinning on a plateau. I can't really explain it any better than that. But some choruses are like a crescendo or a crash through or a big wave. This is more like a zip, and then we're just at that level.
Mhm.
And I can't, I hope you get what I'm saying. But I really liked, as it came out of it, the chirruping guitar that was really nice as it leads out. And then there's another sort of, what I would have to say, a nitro blast from the keyboard that propels us into another chorus. And it is a bit like,
Yeah.
these horrible drag racing cars that goes. And at this point, I'm getting that the chorusy bit is more of a mantra than a sort of sing along a chorus. It's almost so I did get the words to this. This is a pretty much, I got odd words here and there, but nothing sunk in. But because he repeated it a lot of times, so it could have been and this is roughly it. Could have been a contender, could have been someone caught up in a rat race, feeling like no one. And then he mentioned something about paper, money, girls, and could have been the heavyweight champion of the world. And that's an interesting, because it makes me think straight away of Brando on the waterfront. Could have been a contender instead of a bum, which is what I am, and stuff like that. And then you think of the heavyweight champions of the world, and the most iconic being Ali, and then the most notorious, I don't know, would you say Tyson? Probably.
Yeah,
I mean, he was unbelievably terrific and exciting to watch, and then it all went to shit.
So volatile too, right?
Because of the paper and the money and the girls, literally, that's it, But yeah, so again, really interesting. And there's this stuff about, what you aspire, this aspirational side of what you can aspire to. And it's funny how he would say, like, the heavyweight champion of the world, which I think for a time would have been seen as the baddest man on the planet. And whether that's a good thing to be or not, I don't know. But it was definitely aspirational. And now it's definitely tainted, that title, and the way the belts are split and all that. I won't get into the politics of boxing, but all the politics of dancing. But there you go. So I would say, yeah. So it was just really interesting, that it made me think, that chorus as well. So at this point, the drummer's being energetic without being OTT. And then we go briefly into an 80s electronic breakdown. That was a Freudian slip. And it was really reminiscent of some, and it wasn't this is this song, but it was reminiscent of a bunch of songs from the 80s. And I can't think, if I could name them right now, I would, but that sort of electronic sort of squealing is really nice. We break down further. And at this point, I nailed it. Well, I didn't nail it, but it's the way he pronounced the word must that gave away his northern heritage completely. But I said the rest is that quite fact that must. So it's northern, probably Yorkshire, something like that, but it's definitely there. So it feels at this point like the Reverend's doing a bit of a mini sermon, the way he's going it through. The bass again is holding it all together. There's some really nice sparse guitar riffs. And then, just as they're about to go, there's about 2 seconds of this really nice actual piano sounding tinkle. And then we go into the repeated frame of Be Like Everybody Else, which of course is the antithesis of the song. But they repeat it, which again sort of has meaning and then double meaning, and is refrain that that's not that other people telling you to be like yourself rather than heavyweight champion of the world, etc. And we see, and I don't know, it could be wrong here, we see the female keyboard player, and I think for the first time, I don't remember seeing her earlier in the video, and instantly she has huge charisma and kind of conviction as well that just sell it to me more than the Reverend with his arm waving did. I mean, bless him and all that. I warmed to him, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't the most. He was a very serviceable front man rather than a dynamic. He wasn't Jim Morrison. you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was definitely, nothing wrong with him. But somehow it was her at that point, and then you had the group dynamics. So the group vocals were really excellent, and the guitars coming through, and then this massive drum fill goes through into the chorus again, and now the chorus feels like a proper climax, and for me, it really works. Um, so there's more fills, the music starts to swirl upwards, and then it just crashes out. At that point, bizarrely, I didn't remember seeing him before, but I think I noticed a second drummer or a percussionist or something. Anyway, he wasn't trusted enough to have any metalware in his armory. He was just hitting things rather, So I don't know what he was doing, but it was quite funny. And he was lower down than the drummer as well. So it was like, I don't know, work experience or something, or bring your slow cousin to school to work day. I don't know. But I will say this: the final minute, I was thinking the song's all right, it's okay, and then the final minute really did convince me and swept me along. And I particularly from that group point, because they were all having a great time, but at that point it really gelled for me, the song. And then I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Great, man.
Can we have an amen?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh man, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I was actually surprised that you hadn't heard of this band or heard this song before, but that's just because of what I assumed was the popularity of it over there. So yeah, they're an English rock band. They are from Sheffield. So yeah, Yorkshire.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
The band is fronted by John McClure, nicknamed the Reverend. And in late 2005, McClure brought several musicians together for Reverend and the Makers. Like his previous bands, the Makers included co-songwriter Ed Cousins, this time playing the bass. So that's who was featured on the bass in this track. Right. The rest of the Makers consisted of, because there has been some turnover, but what you saw in the original incarnation of them consisted of Dave Sanderson on guitars, Joe Moscow on keyboards, Richie Wesley on drums, and Laura Manuel on vocals, and occasionally Simon Stratford on trombone. Their current lineup includes John McClure, Ed Cousins, Laura McClure, who was formerly Manuel but married the Reverend, Joe Carnell, and Ryan Jenkinson. And in late 2005, fellow Sheffield band Arctic Monkeys released their debut single, and McClure was hounded by major record labels, reportedly offering him sums of £150,000 to make an album like the Arctic Monkeys. McClure declined the offer and decided to do everything his own way, managing to sell out. The plug-in, he sold out the plug-in in Sheffield twice, a venue with a capacity of 1,000 people, while still completely not signed or represented. It was not until the following year that McClure met Mark Jones in a club in London when he asked him for a lighter. The two got to talking, and Mark Jones came to see Reverend and the Makers at the next show, and Jones reportedly proclaimed the band as the best band in the world and signed them to a label with Wall of Sound Records. Their debut album was released in 2007, and that's the same year as what the performance you just saw on Jools, Holland, which was November of 2007. And that was titled The State of Things. This helped them gain success in Britain, spawned the UK top 10 single, Heavyweight Champion of the World. The album features songs co-written and performed with Alex Turner of Arctic Monkeys, and one track co-written with guest vocals from Tim Hampton of Bromhead's Jacket. Other tracks include vocals by Steve Edwards. Their first single release was Heavyweight Champion of the World on May 28th, 2007, and featured B-sides 18 through 30 and The Last Resort, both featuring John Cooper Clarke, evidently Chickentown. The song peaked at number 8.
Dr. John Cooper Clarke now.
Yeah, yes. All it took was one song, hearing that, and I've absolutely fallen in love with the guy ever since then. The song peaked at number 8 on UK singles chart and number 85 on the Australian ARIA singles chart, and it was certified gold by the British phonographic industry in 2022 for sales that exceeded 400,000 units. And now we will get into the lyrics. Now, I will say, in the fourth verse of this song, he expands on it quite a bit in the live performance. So that whole bit about a sinister minister here to administer, that is all not captured here. And it was only, I even scoured the internet for it, but it was only performed, I guess, at that live show, maybe others subsequent to it. Now that she's older, as the embers of romance fade to mortgages and lucky bills, been comfortable in that. Nobody told her that she'd ever reach the stage where her husband bored her or she lied about her age. He's compromising. He's at least he's got a job for life. Get born, get schooled, get a job, get a car, pay tax, find a wife. And on that note, the end can't come too soon. If you're living on the edge, if you're not living on the edge, you take up too much room. I like that line. I could have been a contender. I could have been someone caught up in the rat race. I'm feeling like a no one. Could have been in papers, the money and the girls. I could have been the heavyweight champion of the world. At school, he used to dream about being Bruce Lee, but the need for chops in the manor top ain't all that great, you see. And so he gave up on his black belt and first dan. And as near as he got to China was a week at Camber Sands. What's that, by the way? Camber Sands. Do you know what that is? I assume it's something quite English.
It is. Camber Sands. Oh man, people are gonna roast me in the comments now. My initial, I've heard it, and I want to say it's Essex, but I could be wrong.
Okay, fair. But still the joke or the cheekiness of the line landed with me because I'm like, this has to be some like beach resort town in England or something like that, like not near China at all. Back to the lyrics. I could have been a contender. I could have been someone caught up in the rat race. I'm feeling like a
East Sussex. There you go.
Sussex. All right, there you go. You weren't too far off. It
could have been roasted. Yeah.
Could have been in papers, the money and the girls. I could have been the heavyweight champion of the world. I could have been a contender. I could have been a someone caught up in the rat race. I'm feeling like a no one. Could have been in papers, the money and the girls. I could have been the heavyweight champion of the world. It's boring. It's boring. It might put you to sleep. It's the same old routine repeating week after week. You work harder. You're told that you must, and you must earn a living, and you must earn a crust. And like everybody, and be like everybody else. Be like everybody else. Be like everybody else. Just be like everybody else. Be like everybody else. Just be like everybody else. Be like everybody else. Just be like everybody else. And that repeats 2 more times. And we go back into the chorus with I could have been a contender. I could have been someone caught up in the rat race. I'm feeling like a no one. Could have been me in papers, the money and the girls. Could have been the heavyweight champion of the world. I could have been a contender. I could have been someone caught up in the rat race. I'm feeling like a no one. Could have been in papers. The money and the girls. I could have been the heavyweight champion of the world. So yeah, the heavyweight champion of the world tells a story of not just underachievers, but the majority who are trapped within repetitive lives with the ironic hook, just be like everybody else. Many songs by the band center around the downward spiral of somebody's life. The song title is taken from a line of Barry Hines' book, A Kestrel for a Knave. Like the song, the book's main character is an underachieving young boy growing up in Yorkshire. The song has received rave reviews and appeared as Zane Lowe's hottest record in the world today and is equally liked by Radio 1 DJs Nick Grimshaw and Greg James. And in addition to the reference to Barry Hines' song, the song's chorus includes another pugilistic reference, which you picked up on from the movie On the Waterfront. The line, I could have been a contender, I could have been somebody, spoken by Marlon Brando in the movie, is closely paraphrased in the song's lyrics, I could have been a contender, I could have been a someone. So, astute observation from you. I would expect no less. You're a boxing fan. You love you some Ali.
I love Brando as well.
Yeah, of course, you can't go wrong with Brando, especially this era Brando. So, yeah. Well, I'm glad you like the tune, and I'm glad it's funny, you really didn't mention too much about the performance other than to observe the group play towards the 2/3 mark of the song. But I guess that speaks to how well it was done, because it was another great performance over there on later with Jools Holland, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like the keyboard player, the Moby wannabe, he was, dancing around and stuff, really enjoying himself. The drummer was clearly having a great time. We didn't see it. We probably only saw the top of his mate's head. Uh, and then I say the female was immediately had a lot of presence and charisma just in those few
Yeah.
bits. I know she was saluting and stuff, but anyway. But yeah, they were all, there was the dynamics there between the band as they were playing, and it's just amazing. It's just like, oh yeah, and they're playing this live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a great performance. I'm really, really glad you liked the song. Everybody out there in the listening audience, let us know what you think of Reverend and the Makers and the heavyweight champion of the world, this performance. Maybe other songs by these guys or tracks that this reminds you of. I too was given some Talking Heads, maybe a little Oingo Boingo feel to some of the stuff that was happening in this tune. As John, as you had mentioned, Talking Heads as well. Also, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. We're trying to grow the channel. We can't do that without you guys out there. We really, really do appreciate it. All that out of the way, John and I hope to see all y'all and then some more on the next episode of The Audiophiles. See you later, guys.